Hello dear students, welcome back to MOOC's online courses. In today's class, we would be discussing the shortcomings of urban growth in contemporary India. At the end of this class, you would be knowing what urbanization means. You will also be knowing the factors behind rise of urbanism, and you will also be knowing the limitations or shortcomings of urban growth in contemporary India. So, to begin with the basic question, what does the term urbanization mean? In very simple terms, urbanization means the emergence of cities. However, the definition of a city or an urban area changes from time to time and place to place. For example, the United Nations Organization has recommended that member countries regard all places with more than 20,000 inhabitants living close together as urban. But in fact, nations compile their statistics on the basis of many different standards. For example, United States. United States uses urban place to mean any locality where more than 25,000 people live. However, social scientists have given us a definition, and this definition states, and I quote, "Urbanization is a form of social transformation from traditional rural societies to modern, industrial, and urban communities." As you would be knowing, in the context of India, we have had a long tradition dating back to the Harappan civilization, when the subcontinent saw the birth of its first urban cities. It was very planned with well-delineated spaces for roads, for drains, and other civic amenities. And this fact, this tradition of urbanization is what sets Indian cities from many other countries of the world. From many centuries earlier, Indian cities were planned, big, beautiful, and very different, unlike other cities of the world. Now, having given you a brief about what urbanization means, let us now move on to the factors behind urbanization. One of the main factors behind the rise of urbanization is, of course, industrialization. You must be very familiar with this term. Industrialization is something which represents a shift from the old agricultural economics to novel non-agricultural economy, which creates a modernized society. And through industrialization, more people have been attracted to move from rural to urban areas on account of improved employment opportunities in modern sectors in job categories that aids to stir economic developments. And linked to industrialization is also commercialization. As you are well aware of, commerce and trade play a major role in urbanization. The distribution of goods and services and commercial transaction in the modern era has developed modern marketing institutions and exchange methods that have tremendously given rise to the growth of cities and towns. Then, of course, there are social benefits and services like better educational facilities, better living standards, better sanitation and housing, better health care, better recreational facilities, and a better social life in general. It is naturally for all these reasons that more and more people are prompted to migrate into cities and towns to obtain the wide variety of social benefits and services which are not available in the rural areas. The other factors behind the rise of urbanism is modernization. modernization plays a very important role in the process of urbanization. As urban areas become more technology savvy, together with highly sophisticated communication, infrastructure, medical facilities, dressing codes, enlightenment, liberalization, and other social amenities, people start believing that they can lead a very happy life in cities. Therefore, in urban areas, people embrace changes in the modes of living, namely their residential habits, their attitudes towards life, their dressing sense, food, and beliefs. As a result, people migrate to cities, and the cities grow larger by absorbing the growing number of people day after day. And this is also reflected in the way rural centers transform. As localities become more fruitful and prosperous due to the discovery of, say, resources like minerals, these resources are exploited, then there can be agricultural activities, and thus what happens is that cities start emerging as these rural areas transform to urbanism. The increase in productivity from the exploitation of these resources leads to economic growth and higher value-added employment opportunities. This brings about the need to develop better infrastructure, better educational institutions, better health facilities, better transportational network, establishment of banking institution, better governance, and better housing. And as these take place, rural communities start to adopt the urban culture and ultimately become urban centers themselves that continue to grow as more people move to such locations from nearby areas in search of a better life. And in these rural centers, which are slowly transforming towards urbanism or urban centers, there is a marked change in the following areas. For example, the way people, dress up by emulating their peers in the cities. Then they begin to adopt newer technologies, particularly in those rural areas where there is electric services. So you have appliances in household. Then the modern transport and communication, cell phones, as you know, have become very common among the rural people nowadays. This also leads to employment opportunities. There is enlightenment for women. There is also a political awareness and consciousness and involvement of politics for the rural people in general. There is also an awareness among the rural consumers. In fact, this is reflected in the demand for consumer goods and personal products like, say, cosmetics and toiletries. And in general, we can say that these are the significant changes that are occurring in the lifestyle of rural people, which are slowly transforming themselves into urban centers. However, we should also be careful not to jump into the conclusion that all Indian villages are adopting the urban culture. It is occurring very, very gradually, but it is usually seen that those Indian villages which are more or less nearby cities are the ones which start to transform first. Another factor which should have been mentioned is essentially the spread of education. The literacy rate has also increased exponentially among the rural people. Now, with this backdrop, we will now move on to the shortcomings in urban growth in contemporary India, because we have to understand that urbanization is not an unmixed blessing. Of course, it has its benefits instruments of economic, social, and political progress, but it also has severe shortcomings. And this is what we would now be looking at. Now, one of the major areas which are plaguing modern cities is essentially the slums and its associated problem. Now, a very basic question. We all know the term slum, but this has been defined specifically by the Government of India Act 1954, and it states, and I quote, predominantly a residential area where dwellings by reasons of dilapidation, overcrowding, faulty arrangement, and lack of ventilation, light, or sanitary facilities, or any combination of these factors are detrimental to the safety, health, and morals of the individuals staying there. Another question: what is the reason behind the rise of slums in these cities? One ready answer, of course, is the acute shortage of housing facilities that compels the poor to choose such areas for slums to develop. Slums, as you know, are there in almost all cities, major cities of India, be it Delhi, be it Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai. They are known in various terms. For example, Bastis in Kolkata, Jaggis in Delhi, Jhoparpattis in Mumbai, or Cherry in Chennai. And they have impoverished lavatories made by digging a shallow pit in between 2 or 3 huts, and usually they have a sackcloth, a curtain hanging in front of them, and when the pit overflows, excreta spreads over the surrounding area, and it is hardly cleaned, and all these areas have several cesspools or puddles. People tend to wash their clothes and utensils under the shallow hand pumps, and what happens is that the entire muck around the hand pump percolates into the ground, contaminates the groundwater. This contaminated groundwater is taken through the hand pump, which adversely affects the health of the slum dwellers. This causes severe diseases, blood dysentery, diarrhea, malaria, typhoid, jaundice, conjunctivitis, which kind of stalks them all year round. The other shortcoming of urban growth in contemporary India is, of course, the transport system. As we all know, millions of vehicles ply in cities during peak hours, resulting in huge traffic jams, and this is this is a phenomena which is common globally. Now, this puts tremendous pressure on public transport and cause journeys, even if they were short, to take much longer than they would normally do. So what happens? Because of traffic jams, more petroleum products are wasted, which results in fuel problem. The combustion of petroleum products and diesel, etc., leads to increase of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, resulting in air pollution. And this is apart from, of course, the noise pollution which the vehicle emits. In fact, the noise pollution affects both auditory and non-auditory organs, as explained by medical expert. They state that auditory effects are fatigue and deafness in human beings. The non-auditory effects are interference in speed, communication, annoyance, loss of working efficiency, as well as psychological disorders. In fact, this is something which affects the human resource in general in the urban centers. At the same time, the level of income the level of income being low for many people, what happens is that many citizens, they cannot even afford to pay an economic fare for the use of public transport. And they tend to use slower means of transport like bicycles, which essentially affects the traffic and it slows down, traffic. This apart, there's again the problem of accidents which occur because you have non-motorized and motorized vehicles, jousting for space in the streets. So this remains a major problem. The other shortcomings of urban growth remains the problem of, garbage disposal. As we all know, urban waste comprises of numerous things, of building materials, of plastic, plastic containers, waste from various centers like the hospitals, from commercial areas, kitchen waste and household waste, etc. And many a times it is seen that these household materials, these household solid wastes are dumped in public places. Why? The simple reason is that most cities do not have proper arrangement for garbage disposal, and the existing landfills are full to the brim. So essentially they dump, it anywhere near their house. And what happens to those landfills? These landfills are hotbed of diseases and innumerable poisons leaking into the surroundings. Then there's this problem of the obnoxious smell which contaminates the air. The other problem is the urban sewage. We do not have proper let-out facility. So what we see here is this. As Indian society prospers, its trash, mainly hazardous plastic, metals, packing goods, etc., are increasing exponentially. In the last decade, garbage was produced at nearly twice the rate of population growth. In fact, a statistic states that only 8 out of more than 3,000 cities, Indian cities, have full wastewater collection and treatment facilities. Also, a third of India's population has no access to sanitary services, and it gets worse in smaller cities and provincial towns. The other area is, of course, the sewerage problems, a major handicap to urban growth in contemporary India. Many urban cities in India are plagued with inefficient and insufficient civic amenities. Not a single city in India, and I repeat, not a single city in India has a full sewerage system that covers the entire length and breadth of the city. The reason for this is unauthorized constructions in and around the city that lie outside the purview of the main systems. In fact, it has been estimated that only 38% of the urban population has a proper sewerage system. Not only that, what about the existing system? Is it enough? No. Even the existing system has not been totally overhauled, though work is going on in various sectors in various cities. Say, for example, Mumbai. What is the existing system, sewerage system in Mumbai? Its sewer system is almost a century old, put in place by British planners when the city was not even a series of, small hamlet fishing villages. And so what happens? Today, it breaks down frequently since the waste produced is much, much more than it was designed for. In fact, the sewer line tends to lead to the drains, 93% of which is untreated, directly into the sea, killing virtually all marine life along Mumbai's coast. Similarly, Delhi. Delhi's Yamuna River has turned into a giant sewer, chiefly from raw sewage. And it is estimated that around 40% of Delhi's sewage is untreated. Moving on to the next major problem which is plaguing urban growth in contemporary India, water supply. What specialists have stressed on is this: Indian urbanization has reached a stage where no city has water supply around the clock. People living in Kolkata, Mumbai, Chennai would be knowing that we have around 2 to 3 hours of drinking water supply every day, divided into various times. So intermittent water supply, it creates a vacuum, particularly dangerous if there are leaking joints. So what happens? It sucks in pollution, and this can be dangerous as far as health is concerned. Chennai, Hyderabad, smaller towns like Rajkot get water from municipal sources, but sometimes it is so very erratic that the water supply is less than half an hour, and that to every alternate day. But things seem to be slowly improving. The administration is working on that. Many small towns have no water supply and depend on such sources as individual wells, household open wells, or even river, which have some storage water in pools during summer. Within the city, the drainage system hardly exists, and the annual flooding of large areas, even in places like Delhi, is now a regular phenomenon. Mumbai, for example, is located in Nilin Depression, which also happens to be the main railway artery. With every monsoon, it gets flooded, choking the communication. However, the problem is more acute in cities of the Indo-Gangetic plains like Varanasi and Patna, particularly the eastern part of Patna, which remains waterlogged throughout the monsoon season. What is the result? This promotes unhygienic conditions and leads to the outbreak of numerous diseases affecting urban growth in general. Another major shortcoming of the urban growth is, of course, the environmental problems linked with these issues. With the rapid pace of urbanization, industries, and transport system, what is happening is this is growing out of proportion. These developments are particularly responsible for pollution of environment, particularly the urban. In fact, it has been reported by World Bank in the context of India that almost 40,000 people die every year due to air pollution. Recent studies have also revealed that a large number of people have been suffering from respiratory diseases, allergy, cough, etc. In fact, the trend has doubled since the 1990s. Further, more than 23 Indian cities have crossed the dangerous limit because of auto exhausts and industrial emission. This brings us to the next shortcoming, which is essentially the degradation of environmental quality. Due to urbanization, there is environmental degradation, especially in the quality of air, water, and noise. What is the process? Essentially, what happens is this: with the influx of more and more people in the cities, there is a great demand for facilities such as housing. But as we all know, not all housing are legal, and waste of those which are unlawful, be it building, be it houses, even factories, which are having poor infrastructure, which are unplanned, are directly channeled to the nearest river or water sources, and this pollute the natural resources of those areas. Another after effect of rapid urbanization is, of course, the air pollution, which we just mentioned, the noise pollution, and the growth of population. The growth of population has generated a very high quantity of solid waste, and there is a pressure to provide a waste disposable place in the urban places. Now, this naturally leads to the decline in quality of living for urban dwellers. In fact, management researchers have stressed on the decline of quality of living for urban inhabitants. What happens is this: as the metropolis becomes or transforms into a developed city, the land value increases. So what essentially happens is this: the housing provision focuses on the need of the high income group because the value goes up. As such, there is a serious problem in the provision of housing, especially for the middle and the lower income group. So the lack of housing provision for the low income group leads to continuous and unlawful residential settlements in the city. And these unlawful tenant settlements lack proper infrastructure. It brings about hindrances to the urban environment and create social problems such as child education, crime, drugs, delinquency, and others. Besides housing problem for the low income group, the process of urbanization has also increased the infrastructure and utility which cannot be fulfilled from existing facilities. The maintenance of drains and debris, for example, is inconsistent with the demands which was raised, and this leads to other serious problems such as flash floods or poor public health. Unemployment, and this is a major shortcoming of urban growth. The problem of joblessness. In India, it is estimated that approximately 15 to 25% of labor posts in the cities are jobless or unemployed. And the percentage is particularly very high among the educated, upwardly mobile group. And it is estimated that about half of all knowledgeable urban unemployed youths are living in the 4 metropolitan cities of Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, and Mumbai. Additionally, although urban incomes may seem to be higher among the middle and the upper classes, in real terms they become awfully low because of the high cost of living in urban areas. So, a major cause of urban unemployment are the huge relocation of people from rural to urban areas. So what does this lead to? This leads to urban crime, a major detriment in the urban growth in contemporary India, because this is related to unemployment, poverty, social services, overcrowding, and this leads to violence, drug abuse, crime, and most of the crimes, murder, rape, kidnapping, riots, assaults, theft, robbery, all these are reported mainly from the urban vicinities, mainly. Besides, poverty-related crimes are the highest in fast-growing urban regions, and these acts of crime upsets the peace and tranquility of urban centers of the cities and towns. Now, this poses a major challenge to urban governance. The urban authority faces multifaceted challenges to tackle these issues. The issue of dealing with a fast rate of urbanization, because it involves several agencies and departments in urban management. And there's also the process to deliver solutions involving synchronization of many actions involving various departments, and this in turn affects the efficiency of those actions. Besides this, the local authority also deals with different goals and interests of community groups which they need to fulfill. Consequently, what happens? Local authorities needs to find solution for different social issues. Now, having looked at this, we will conclude by briefly touching upon what is the solution? What is the way forward? You know, the present urban chaos in India is mainly the result of ineffective and inefficient urban management, multiplicity of authorities, inadequate revenue base, lack of coordination between various municipal agencies, etc., as well as the non-participatory attitudes of stakeholders. Therefore, it is now becoming more and more imperative to focus on various elements that are essential for the survival of urban centers like social, economic, environmental, and urban governance. With better management, better control, and utilization of these four elements, it is hoped that sustainable urbanization can be achieved. Thank you. I hope you have understood urbanization, factors behind urbanization, and the limitations or shortcomings as far as urban growth in contemporary India is concerned. Thank you.